A lot of people are afraid to keep track of the money in and the money out. At least I was. When I was doing 30, 40, 60,000 a month, I started to lose track of the money in and money out. I knew I needed a bookkeeper, but I was afraid. I was afraid to take a closer look and see all of the mistakes I was making, all of the irresponsible spending, all of the business expenses that were really personal expenses. I didn't want to own up to my own deficiencies, but I did. I worked with a bookkeeper, I got everything sorted out, and I started treating my business like a real business. You see, if I had done nothing at all and stayed in that spot, my business would not have grown. I would have been capped at the level of discomfort that I was willing to tolerate. Much like yourself, I am the bottleneck of my own business. In order for me to move forward and continue to build on my financial foundation, I needed to master the basics. In this case, the basics are having good bookkeeping practices. Do you know how much money is coming in and coming out? Today we're going to talk about it. I'm going to show you what I went through and how I handle bookkeeping. Hopefully, it will give you a clear path on what to do so you don't have to experience the same pain that I did. But why should you listen to me? Well, I've made over $6 million selling products online in the last couple of years. I've been through this. I've gone from being a blue-collar fireman who knows nothing about this to having a clear understanding of financial practices, profit and loss, balance sheet, budgeting, profit first, bookkeeping, tax prep, and accounting. I'm proud of my books. I think they're tight, they're neat, and if you take a look at them, you're going to say, I get it. But it wasn't always that way, and it started with a bookkeeper. So what is a bookkeeper? A bookkeeper is somebody that keeps track of the money coming in and the money coming out. They'll typically use a software like QuickBooks to link it up to your bank account, and then they'll categorize all of the transactions that come in and go out. They do this every single month. And when they're done, they will generate a profit and loss report and a balance sheet. Those are the two financial statements that you should be getting every single month from your bookkeeper. But we'll talk more about that in a few minutes. So where do we start? Well, you gotta have a separate bank account. I'm sure you already have a separate bank account, but if you don't, it's absolutely mandatory.
Now, to open a business bank account, all you'll need is your LLC paperwork and your EIN paperwork. Those two things will allow you to get a free business checking account with Relay. Why Relay? They're by far my favorite bank. And I have accounts with more than 11 different places. I've tried a lot because I was looking for one that fit all of the things that I needed. I needed to be able to send checks and wire transfers and ACH and open multiple accounts and deposit and connect to QuickBooks. And not only that, but they're the official Profit First banking platform. And it's so much easier to manage that system. So as soon as I found these guys, I reached out and I said, hey, we've got to do something together. More people need to know about you because this is incredible. And that's why I'm making this video. So I can tell you about a banking platform that's been an absolute game changer for us. It is my primary banking platform now. I've shifted everything over to it and I couldn't be happier. And the best part is that if I need somebody, I can call them or I can email them and they'll answer me. Try doing that with one of the bigger banks. Won't work. So if you want to open up a free business checking account with Relay, click the link below, fill out the application, and within a day or so, you should be approved and you'll be good to go. Even if you already have a business bank account, it's a good idea to have a backup. So give them a shot, try them out, and see firsthand why they've become my new favorite business banking platform.
Once you have a separate business bank account, you can start keeping track of things separately. I use accounting software called QuickBooks. I'm sure you've heard of it. There are many out there. It's just the one that I use. Accounting softwares are pretty much all the same. You log in, you link your bank account, you link your credit cards, and it will pull all of your transactions into the dashboard. It is then your job to tell the accounting software what expenses are for what. I'll give you an example. This right here is my expense category on some of the more recent transactions for Scorch Marker. If we look at the top, we'll see this one says suspense. That's what my bookkeeper does when she doesn't know what to do with a transaction. It's then my job to go in and be like, CPM, I know what that's for. That's shipping out. So let me go in here. I'll type in shipping and goods out. Perfect. It is now categorized. And that's it. That's bookkeeping. Now, obviously, it's a little bit more complicated and we're going to get into that. But why? Why do we do this? Why do we need to know where all of our money is being spent? Can't we just look at the totals that we have left over and have an idea? Sure. You can, and that works when you're making less than 10 grand, but we want to make $1 million a year. So why is bookkeeping important to us? It's the foundation of every financial decision we will make in the business. We can't set up profit first unless we know how much money we're spending on what. We can't figure out how much to pay ourselves if we don't know how much profit our business is generating. How do we know if we're overspending on certain expenses or certain categories? How do we know which channel is performing the best and which one is generating the most in sales? We won't be able to do projections. We can't do pro formas. We won't know when we need to cut staff or expenses, and the list goes on. Bookkeeping is the foundation for your taxes, for accounting, and even your tax saving strategies. If we don't have this in place, we can't do anything. Did I mention it's just good business? This is what good business owners do. They keep track of the money in, they keep track of the money out. Now, if you're sitting here saying, yeah, Evan, I'm just not a numbers person. I don't want to do it. Okay, just know that you will never be able to progress past a certain level. You will be stuck and you will stay there until you learn how to do this. You're not going to magically become an 8 or 9 figure entrepreneur without understanding how to do bookkeeping, without knowing how to read a profit and loss and a balance sheet. I'm sorry, it's just not going to happen. Okay, I've talked about the importance of bookkeeping and how it works, but what does the bookkeeper actually do? Because they're different from an accountant. They are not the same as a CPA, and they're not the same as an EA. A bookkeeper's job is to make sure that the money in your accounting software matches the money in your bank account. Your bookkeeper should also send you a profit and loss report and a balance sheet at the end of every month. Your job is to clarify the expenses that they don't understand and to give them your bank statements. They need those to do their job, and that's it. So how do we find a bookkeeper? I'm going to give you 12 questions that you can ask any bookkeeper to figure out if they're a good fit for you. Before you choose a bookkeeper, please pick one who's familiar with small business. You do not want to work with a bookkeeper who only does employees, paychecks, or large corporations. You want small business bookkeeping. You can use their answers to figure out if they're going to be a good fit for you. Typically, you can tell based on how they answer the question whether or not they know what they're talking about. And if you're not sure, keep asking questions. You'll eventually figure it out. So how much is this going to cost you? Because I'm sure you're like me and thinking, oh, I can't afford this right now. I just need to do it. I just need to get it done. That was the first question that I had when I knew that I needed to get a bookkeeper in place. The good news is that it's not that bad. I would expect anywhere from $200 to $1,000 a month. Now, on the lower end are the people that just do bookkeeping, right? All they're going to do is the basics of what we talked about. But if you want someone to run your payroll and help you prepare your taxes or keep track of all your receipts and all the other little details, then it could go up. The accounting firm that I use is $800 a month, but I get everything. Bookkeeping, tax prep. They help me with payroll. They help me with all of my questions and they talk to the IRS. But most importantly, they tell me what I need to do to save the most money on taxes. My guy's name is Steven. He runs an accounting firm and he's in the resources section in the membership if you need him. So what do you need to put all of this in place? You've got to start before this becomes a problem. It's never going to be easier to implement a bookkeeper than it is right now. If you keep missing tax deadlines and the transactions keep stacking up and more time passes, it's only going to get harder. I'm serious when I say this. I need you to have this in place. Without it, we can't become a 7-figure brand. Now remember, if you need help or guidance, our membership can walk you through this. I can connect you to the right professional, or I can teach you what you need to know to figure out all of this stuff so you can get it done on your own. There is an entire business fundamentals video course that specifically goes over financials, S-Corps, and taxation. So I've got your back if you need it. Let's take a look at my profit and loss report from Scorch Marker in 2021. I want to break it down piece by piece so you can have a better understanding of what these documents look like, how to read one, why it's important, and what to expect when you have yours sent to you at the end of the month. So let's dig right in. The first thing that you'll see here is the top line and the bottom line. That's what my eyes immediately do. I'll look at the biggest number on the top and then my eyes will go right down to the bottom to see what the net profit is. My goal today is to show you the steps in between so you can see how that big number becomes the small number or how your gross sales become your net profit. Okay, let's start with income. The first one that we have is Amazon. You can see that's a big chunk of our revenue. All the Amazon income goes right here. The next thing you'll see on this list is our D2C income. D2C stands for direct to consumer. Our direct to consumer channel is Shopify. You might have WordPress, but for all intents and purposes, it's the same. We do break it out based on the way they pay us. PayPal, ShopPay, Stripe, but I don't think it's that big of a deal. I just wanted to let you know why they're included there. The total D2C income is $253,000. So you can see all of these added up to this. But there's also some other income in here too, and that's retail income. We sell our product into large retailers like Michael's and Hobby Lobby and now Walmart. And you'll see here that we have about $87,000 that came in directly from retailers. So when it's all totaled up, you'll see this figure right here, your total income. This is your gross sales, your GMV, your top line, your total sales. It's all right here, the biggest number in your business. So now let's talk about how that number becomes smaller, because the next one on the list is gross profit. Well, how do we get to gross profit? We subtract the cost of our inventory. That's it. You can also subtract the cost of getting the product to your warehouse which is the shipping costs, and that's already baked into our cost of goods. But you'll also see one other item here, and that's shipping goods out. This is the amount of money we spent shipping product to customers. In my opinion, it is a cost that needs to be factored into the gross profit. Now, it's not part of your cost of goods sold. So that means when you're calculating your pricing and looking at your margin, and you're figuring out how much money you're making off each one of these products, we don't factor in shipping to the customer. It's a separate line item, yet it still plays a factor. After we've subtracted the cost of our inventory and the cost of shipping the product to our customer, we are left with our gross profit. And our gross profit is right here. Gross means big, profit means the money we've made after we've paid for the product. But there's so many other expenses. There's so much more that goes into operating a business. And that's where the rest of your expenses come into play, and that's where everything else is going to be. Let's take a look at that. Let's look at our expenses and see what kind of costs are involved in operating this type of business. The first that you'll see is advertising and marketing, $150,000. That's pretty good for the amount of sales that we got, but we spent $150,000 simply on advertising and marketing. Going to be one of your bigger expenses. So is people. So is shipping. So is inventory. Those are going to be the big ones for us. You'll see that we have bank charges and fees in here, and then we also have car and truck, gas, toll road, truck lease, etc. All of that's included in our operating expenses under car and truck. Consulting fees, it's exactly what it is. I was paying consultants at this time to teach me, guide me, and help me, and those fees are documented right here. We also have contractors. Contractors like blog writers and web designers, etc. So if you primarily work with contractors or people from Fiverr, that's where they'll go. Dues and subscriptions is self-explanatory. EDI is our software that we use for managing our retail relationships and the POs and invoices. Insurance, pretty standard, about $6,000 a year, and that's for liability insurance. Janitorial and job supplies are exactly as they sound. When we need to buy certain things for the shop or the business or whatever, it's included here. And then we get into some legal and professional services. And you're like, whoa, $54,000? Yeah, $54,000. We spent a lot on legal that year. We had patents, we had trademarks, we had infringements. We had a lot to deal with, so we spent a lot of money. Have we spent that much since? No, we have not. I've really reined it in when it comes to spending on the legal side, but that was an expensive year for us. Now we're getting into some of the other expenses in the business. Look at management fees, for example. What do you think this is? What did we spend $186,000 on? Me, that's my pay. I have a second company that's an LLC taxed as an S-Corp. That company has myself and my wife on payroll. It's an S-Corp, and putting us on payroll is one of those requirements. But the cool thing about that is I can use that business to collect all of my money and then pay myself with it to take advantage of the S-Corp tax benefits. So instead of paying myself directly from Scorch, I pass the money to my holding company, and my holding company pays me out. This way, if I ever have partners or investors or people I'm bringing into Scorch Marker, I don't have to put them on payroll and follow the pro rata rule, which is a requirement when you're an S-Corp. I have an entire business fundamentals course that will teach you how to do this, how to operate it, how to execute it, and who to use to make it all happen and save this kind of money. But for sake of discussion, I want you to know that that $186,000 was transferred from Scorch Marker to my holding company to pay me. So I got that money. This plus a little bit extra is what I made from Scorch Marker in 2021. So when you hear me talk about e-com brands of this size and how much money they make, a 20% net profit, this is what I mean. So if you're making $1 million a year with your business, expect to pay yourself about $200,000. Meals and entertainment, self-explanatory. Whenever we talk about Scorch Marker over a meal, I use the business card to pay for it. Merchant fees is like credit card processing and bank fees. Office supplies and software is all of our Amazon purchases. We have other business expenses, fees for QuickBooks, rents and lease, repairs and maintenance, and then we have research and development. Research and development is the money that I pay to develop our products and work with chemists and other professionals to make them better, to enhance them, and all of that's included there. We have sales tax, supplies and materials, and transaction fees. Notice how much money we spent in transaction fees. It's big. Amazon fees have gone up significantly since 2021. What we do is we include Amazon's fees in a separate line item so we can judge our top line and our costs associated with that. So all this money Amazon takes before they pay us out. Selling on Amazon is expensive. You've really got to have a good margin if you want to make money on Amazon. You can't be selling items that only have a 50% margin. PayPal, Shopify, and Stripe fees are all included in this area as well. So if you look at the total, $300,000 in transaction fees. That's 30% of our top line goes directly to fees to pay Amazon just to be on there. Crazy, right? Utilities is self-explanatory, business pays for our cell phones and whatnot. And then at the very end, you can see total expenses. So we have $872,000 of total expenses. Now you might be curious because it shows 1.18 million at the top. And if total expenses are only 872, that doesn't make sense. There should be more money here, right? No, we subtract the 872 from our gross profit from 923. That's why there's $50,000 left over. And this is how you read a profit and loss statement and what it should look like for you. Your categories and the numbers in your categories are going to be different than mine. I'm serious when I say I am practicing what I'm preaching. This is a real profit and loss from my business of 2021. I want you to see how much money I made. I want you to see how we pulled the money out in terms of management fees, how much it costs to operate, and what you can expect. Because once you have a profit and loss report like this, you can make good financial decisions. But if you don't know how much you've spent on legal last year, how do you know where you can make the cuts? If you're not sure what your fees are, you might be paying extra money in taxes. There's a lot that comes out of this profit and loss report, including projections, pro formas, profit first, and just overall budgeting and good business practice. I really hope this helps, because once you have a bookkeeper to generate these reports for you every month and help you out with this, you're going to be a better business owner. And that's my goal, to teach you what you need to know to make more than $1 million a year with your e-com brand.